All right, good evening, everyone out there. Yeah, we have an awesome show tonight. Tonight I have Donald Hooker Jr., who I met as DJ out in Minneapolis, and we are going to have a conversation about what it's been like out there for the last year, and really, I mean, a little more than a year now, and what the future looks like. So, without any more waiting, let's get this thing live. All right, and here we are. All right. So we are in different camps. You will see he's drinking that one. I'm drinking this one. So let the battle begin.
I personally think they're the same product, and they have them different to drive the prices up.
I'm gonna say one thing to you, and take this as you will. Don't stop drinking your drink. I'm not trying to do that to you. But one of these companies has actually hired and been taken to court over this in multiple countries, death squads to kill unionizers in Colombia, and one of these companies hasn't. And this is the company that didn't do it. Coca-Cola murdered people.
UN.
Coca-Cola murdered union organizers.
That's not a good. That's not good. How?
It's actually the only reason I choose one over the other. Literally, like, I mean, I like them both, like, in terms of the taste, so I don't mind. I'm not, like, in a camp other than, like, I get to choose that, so.
Yeah. Oh, I just didn't know that.
And this was in the last 20 years. This is where I'm not talking about, like, 100 years ago when they were still putting cocaine in the recipe. Like, I'm talking, like, in the 90s and the 2000s. Like, it's messed up.
What do they? Was the companies trying to unionize against Coca-Cola? Is that what it was?
There were union organizers on the ground trying to organize a lot of the Colombian farmers who, get a lot of the ingredients that Coca-Cola uses.
Okay.
And the people organizing or attempting to organize the farmers and the workers ended up all dead. Multiple times. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
that sucks as a
just one of those things
as
to know,
someone
right?
who, yeah,
Like,
someone who's
but
in
if
the
we
union.
bought with
So
our dollar like that at a normal U.S. grocery store, that's half of the store. So it makes it kind of hard. Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. Thanks
yeah.
for.
Hey, sometimes people want to know these things. But yeah, so, anyways, everyone, this is DJ, and I want to show you guys a picture, which is a picture that shows kind of how I met Donald, and that is this. This is a picture. Donald isn't seeing these. Donald is on his phone, but this is a picture by Emma Leigh Sharon, who takes amazing photographs. I freaking love her work, and that's of course DJ with the mic. And this is exactly how I met DJ, which was out there just leading these protests. And you could tell, like any good lefty protest, there was no leader. No one was entirely in charge, but people needed to run the mic. Someone's got to keep the crowd going. Everything from just the chatting to the dancing, to the singing, to the chanting, as someone's got to have that energy. And you had it, man. It was, you were entertaining the entire time. Now, I was holding that white banner that's standing right behind you, so I was like only a few feet from you the entire time. So, like, I got to feel that energy up close, and it was one of those things, because I've been in a ton of these cities. Like, I've been all over. I was in Chaz, I've been here. I was at half of the Occupies I visited. I've been to so many different protests, and they need people like you. There were a couple other people doing the same thing there, but, like, there were just, the crowd gets bored. They leave early, and what I want to know is, like, were you organizational in getting this stuff going, or did you just one day say, this place needs energy, and grab the damn mic from someone?
Yeah, it was real because I had been doing a lot of union organizing for the last 3-4 years, and I had friends in my union who also did community organizing. And so for the last couple of years, I've gone to like 1 or 2 protests a year that they dragged me out to. And so then that was a thing. Um, so Floyd happened, and I remember just like, seeing the first couple of seconds of the video and just like going to my Facebook Live and just like crying my eyes out. And I started going to a lot of these. I just started going to like every single event that I could make it to. Um, and I knew that there was some. I had those friends who had did community organizing, and I currently organize with Twin Cities Coalition for Justice for Jamar, which is for Jamar Clark, who was killed by MPD in 2015.
And I believe
And
their stuff online is all TCJJ, right?
yeah, TCC4J.
TCC4J. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if anyone
yeah.
wants to look that up,
So yeah, and so I had my friends, and I had what was happening was during the uprising the first couple of days, because I had people that kept like checking on me and stuff like that. So I found that it was easier if I just did like a small recap of what I had did that night and just be like, I'm safe. This is what happened. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to wake up
right?
and go to the next protest tomorrow. So I don't really have time to respond to messages. And so my friend was like, DJ, you're speaking, you're doing the things. Just like jump on the mic and like give a speech or like come up here and do some chants. And I was like, I don't really do that. Like,
Right?
yeah, I've never really been in the public speaking. I remember one time in high school, I was supposed to like go in front and present like a project, and I did a real good job on the PowerPoint. And they're like, "Yeah, well, you gotta like go up there and present it. That's like half the grade." I was like, "I'm not going up there."
No.
And they're like, "Well, that's 50% of the grade." I said, "Well, I guess I got an F plus then,
Right?
because I'm just not doing that." So yeah, it's been really weird to actually talk in front of thousands of people and stuff like that. So.
Well, it's one of those things for a lot of us who are at the front of these types of protests. Like, whenever I've got the megaphone or the mic at a protest like that, I feel the same way because I remember growing up exactly like you. Like, I did not want to give any presentations. I was not going to the front of the class. The teacher could read it or I could get an F. We were cool, you know? So I'm 100% there with you. Now, before the show, we actually joked around because I told you about, you're originally from Kansas City, and when I was in Kansas City living there, I ran the Rocky Horror Picture Show there, and we were joking about that. And I got to tell you, what's funny about how I ended up on the mic and on the megaphone and starting to kind of be out in front of crowds was actually because of that show. I was there for the first time I ever saw it, and we'll see how it goes for you if you make it to a show. But they dragged me onto the stage for what they refer to as virgin treatment, which is all the people who are there for their very first time to see the movie in person. And I ended up actually getting pantsed in front of the crowd. And but they just meant to take my shorts off, and instead everything came off. And I'm sitting there as a guy who wouldn't even like say a word on a microphone in front of a crowd at this point. And I'm a teenager, and I'm oh, wait. And I'm thinking logically that I'm nervous, that I hate this, that I want to get off stage. What the hell just happened? But then I'm thinking about my feelings, and I start to realize I'm not actually nervous. My heart rate isn't moving. I don't actually give a shit. And so I stood there, and I looked at the person who pantsed me and said, "Are you going to pull those back up?" And she did. And then as I was standing there, they said that the person who was playing Brad that night wasn't going to be there. And I look kind of like this nerdy character in the movie. Could I play the part? And I was like, well, no, I don't do stage. They're like, you just had your out and you didn't seem nervous at all. And you won't play this part? So like it was one of those things where I was thrust into it and then realized, oh, I can do this. And I'm sure yours was a little different, but in the same regard, there was a reason you took that mic and it worked. But so you're at the front of the event that I'm at last time I'm there, and and you're cycling through. There's a lot of talking before anyone starts marching, which I thought was really great because there's a lot of these where I see people show up and there's 5 minutes of we're here for this one thing, let's go, and then we march, and then everyone's sent home, and there's no, for lack of a better term, there's no homework. There's no we're coming back. There's no here's an event. There's this group you need to reach out to. None of that. You guys had that really on point at that event, and I want to show people one of the tables that was at that event, which is this one. If it wants to come up, CPAG, Civilian Police Accountability Commission. And this is the kind of stuff I was seeing going on out there. And I'm just showing them that little green, like paper mache CPAG you guys got out there. He can't see the images, so I'm describing them to him, chat. But so you also not only are out there getting stuff done at the protests, but it looks like some of the protesters have actually gone on to start pushing for legislation, getting things changed that will actually affect a majority of the people in that city, hopefully. How has that been working out for you guys?
Yeah, um, so I'm new to the movement. So I've been in the movement since the uprising. So barely a year, or coming up on a year. Um, and so there is a lot of groundwork that has already been done by the OGs and the people who've come before me and done a lot of organizing. Um, and so we have things like the National Lawyer Guild, who we can call and them to come over, and they
Yep.
have phones set up so that they can take people's calls and get people lawyers for jail support. We have the Minnesota Freedom Fund who helps bail out protesters. And so there's already a lot of people who have been pushing legislation and people who have been developing that throughout the years. So because the thing about a protest is, like you said, it's not like a 5 minute, like, this is why we're here, let's go march and then leave. Like we need to make sure when we organize that there is a reason why we're there. We need action steps on how we can get those solved, right? And there should be some things where it's like things you can do when you leave, right? Things that we can do right now. Sometimes we tell people, take your phone out, we're going to call the legislators right now.
Yep.
Everyone's about to call the legislator and tell them about this thing. And then it's also being able to escalate things, right? Having things start out small and then slowly escalating it up, so that you get more actions that way too. Um, so that's what it's about when it comes to organizing. So what we also do, like you were saying, is we have a lot of legislation that we push. So a lot of the legislation actually comes from justice families, families that are affected by police brutality.
Yep.
Um, and so um, and so a lot of them have sat down with lawyers, and they've kind of like, they have these bills that they want to get passed at the state legislature. Um, and so, yeah, we have like 8 or 9 bills right now at the state or not at the state legislature. I'm not sure how many are still in the, because it's getting towards the end of legislation, and there's a big ominous bill. So I know we still got a couple of bills that are in there, but last minute
Right.
politics and stuff. So um, but yeah, so we're definitely out here pushing like legislation and trying to get some systemic change, right?
Right.
We can get Derek Chauvin, convicted in the other 3 killer counts. Yes, we need that because that's what justice looks like. But we also need to get like actual systemic change.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
temporary justice.
yeah, exactly. And and so we need to make sure that systems are actually going to change, because they don't care, the ruling class and all the 1%, they don't care if we burn all this stuff down. We can burn the whole
Oh,
city down.
they
They
all have insurance. They
understand.
don't care.
They have insurance. They can rebuild it.
Yep.
Minneapolis is already in the process of being super gentrified. If anything, it's speeding it up. So they don't really care about those. They'll pretend like they care in the media to try to get people to stop. But but what they really care about is keeping control, and keeping that power, right? And so the power lies in that systemic change, right? In legislation like community control of the police, in legislation of like, getting rid of the police immunity and stuff like that, and making sure that body cam footage is released within the first 48 hours. So
Absolutely.
that's the kind of change that we actually need to push for, because notice how like a lot of these states, they they like go around and they go and they try to pass some watered down legislation. In Minnesota, they're not even pretending. They won't even give us a pretend bill. Like they're
No,
just
no,
like,
no. You
we're
are
good.
fighting
Like,
every step of the way.
Yeah, they're fighting every step of the way, and they're just like, oh yeah, we convicted Derek, that's enough, right? And it's just like, no, the YE died while we were waiting for Derek to get convicted. Dante Wright died while you were waiting for Dante Wright, and so it's just like it, that's why we need to make sure we get systemic change, so none of these people have to keep dying, right?
One of the things that I found really inspiring about just how long you guys have actually been fighting, because these types of movements they die out. You'll have the 10,000 people in the streets the week George Floyd is actually murdered, but a year later you'll have the 100 people who are still left in the streets. Right? It's just people go back to work. They get tired of it. Their bodies wear out. They don't have the energy. Whatever their excuse is,
Mhm.
they start to die down. But when I was there the night that Chauvin was actually found guilty, I went straight to George Floyd Square to see what it was, and well, it was a party. There was there were people on the mic. It was a concert. It was live music. It was going nuts, and that was great to see, because that's needed. You need a little of that release, and I totally get that. But I didn't stay long, because I mean I understand the party, and I understand the people who need to have that release. But it also I have this thing. I'm a I mean, I'm poor as hell, but I am a white male in America, a cis white male at that. So, that party wasn't for me. That was for everyone who was there partying. I took off to Brooklyn Center, and there were still a hell of a lot of people over there on the Dante Wright tip. The audio truck was over there. People were still, the National Guard was out. It was still on. Jaylani was there on the mic. For anyone who doesn't know, Jaylani is damn well spoken. Man, is he? If he ever takes the mic, just listen. That's all I've got to say about him. Just listen. And the fact that while the party needed to go on, there was still that hardcore group of people over at Brooklyn Center still getting it done. And even on my way there, based on what I had seen during the whole week, I knew who was going to be there. You knew the group of people who were going to be there by face. There were 4 or 5 people who I just expected were going to be on the ground, and they all were. You've got a group of people who are still really dedicated to keeping this thing going, and that's good to see. But what I wanted to show people also was this wonderful, wonderful thing, which every city would die for. I'm showing them the white van. This audio truck. I mean, you can see the speakers coming out of the back, on top, the side. This thing can be heard 8 blocks away, and they've got a microphone that is crisp and clear. So every protest, no matter how long the line gets, when one of these people like Jaylani or like DJ here take the mic, everyone can hear the chant. There's no mistaking what is being said on that mic, and
Yeah.
every city needs that. The other thing that I wanted to show them, and I'd love to kind of talk a little more about kind of some of the on the ground organization there, is I'm going to show the chat these motorcycles. So, I've been at a lot of events out there, and I thought this was actually pretty cool because in a lot of cities, when you're doing this type of protesting, the cops will show up whether you permit it or not, whether you've told them what your parade route is or not, to use their terminology. And they'll get in front of the march, and they'll try and block off streets, and they'll do all that fun stuff to, supposedly keep you safe, but they're really trying to guide you. To where they want you to go. In Minneapolis, that is not the case. The cops were blocks away. You could see them watching, but they were not there. This is a group of motorcyclers who would go ahead a block off traffic, and then marshal the protesters through, that were all part of the protest themselves. And they're just the level. The audio truck, the speakers, the groups working on legislation, I was really impressed. I was really impressed by what you guys had going on out there. It was cool to see, because a lot of cities don't get it that right.
Yeah, because in Minneapolis, the way that it works out is I said I'm in TCC for J, but we have a lot of different organizations, and they focus on different things. Some are more legislative, more, and, some of them focus on all aspects of the movement. But we all work together. We also have organizations that are just marshals, right? So people who block the streets for us. And then we have those marshals, which is a biker group, Bikers um, Against Racism. They come on their motorcycles and they're able to block off the streets and stuff like that, which is super awesome too, because they're a lot more flexible than cars are.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's just because we know, because like you said, that sometimes the cops like to follow you and like shut it down and act like they're protecting, but we know who keep us safe. We keep us safe,
Damn
not
straight.
the cop. So and it's just so nice to see everything come together. Huge shout out to the Peter Pepper. He's the one who runs the sound truck.
Peter's
He's
amazing.
like, yeah, he used or he is a rave DJ, and so he just put this stuff on this truck, and he just started going to like everything. I
And
mean,
he's taken
literally
like
everything.
what, 3 or 4 sound decibel level citations from the cops over it, and he just
Yes.
doesn't care. He turns the volume up when they start complaining.
And so, yeah, Peter's amazing. And now Peter started recruiting more people to help him out. At one event, we had like recently, he has like 3 sound trucks now, and he like connects them all Bluetooth so that like there's one in the front, one in the middle, one in the back. And I'm like,
It's just it's fucking. I'm just gonna say it. It's fucking crazy how well organized that shit is. Like, you guys got really lucky having just those few people who were willing to put in that amount of effort. Because I've been out there 3 times now over the last couple months, and every single day I made it to an event, and that damn truck was there. Like, that's some dedication. That is some dedication.
yeah, because yeah,
Oh
and I mean like yeah, Peter was everywhere, and like because we never stopped. So what had happened was the news stopped covering a lot of things after the uprising, but we were out there all summer.
yeah.
We were out there all fall. We were out. We had at least 2 protests a week in the wintertime. And like it does get like it might be -6. We going out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean, yeah.
all
Living
the
in
way up
Boston,
until
I know that feeling. You protest whether it's winter or not, right?
yeah. A
So
lot of international press got real confused, especially
yeah,
by the with the Dante Wright. People are just like, I can't believe we're out here. It's like 20 degrees and it's snowing and it's Minneapolis and like we're gonna be out here. Like, that's what we do.
yeah. You chose to live in Minneapolis. This is the thing. If you'd like to protest in 72-degree weather, move to San Diego. Although I'm not a, I mean, I don't. If anyone watching's from San Diego, I'm sorry, but I've never really gotten along with people when I've been in San Diego. I don't know what it is about that place. The best weather, and it's a bit weird out there.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it snows in April, as
Yeah,
Prince used to
right,
say, right? He got a song about it.
right. So
So,
we have we have all these events going on. They go on for this entire time, and we get up to the sentencing. And I get up at like 7 in the morning, wondering how it's going to go on the day of. And I get out, and I am right there at the government center in the building, the Hennepin County Center there. And there's a small group at 7 a.m. There's only like 4 of you guys out there. But I think you know exactly who it is. And I'm only going to say the name because I watched him talk to CNN and say it. And Chaz is there with his whole crew. And he's just blocking.
who?
Chaz, he's always got the do-rag on and thing. You know Chaz.
Yeah.
And he's there, and he's got his friends, and there's only 4 of them, and they're blocking all the traffic. Just the 4 of them. They're enough to just block traffic. And what was great to watch was like cops even tried to get by. They kept blaring their sirens, and he sat on one of their hoods to just like explain to them, "I am not moving." They didn't get out of the car. They ended up turning around and going the wrong way down a one way to just get away from him. Um, and it was a good introduction to how things seemed to be going for the rest of the day. It was a little smaller there that day than I thought. I thought there'd be more people, and then I found out that there was an event planned, but it happened later, and it was like the 5 o'clock, right? The march that happened later, which I showed those pictures from, like the motorcycles and whatnot. But it was good to see people out that early in the morning, and then of course it wasn't that long later that we ended up with actual guilty verdict a couple weeks there. But what I want to know is like you know, you're on the ground, you've got the feel of all this, you're talking to people, you're still going out to these protests. Um, Chauvin's sentencing, the people I've talked to already out there have kind of led me to believe that he gets exactly what he deserves, which is, you know, whatever to life based on the aggregated, and depending on if they give him the aggravated, it's 10 to life or 25 to life. And aggravated might take away possibility of parole, all this stuff, but he gets max, and everything is okay until the next trials happen, and then we'll see how those go. And if he gets anything less than max, Lakeview and a few other places might catch on fire again. And that's kind of how it was told to me. And I mean, is that the actual feel on the ground? Like, are you guys still feeling that tensed up, waiting for his sentencing, or?
It's a hard question for me because I'm just like, I'm very optimistic. I'm just like, of course he's gonna get the max. And I'm like, and then like every like
Yeah.
person of color I know is like, what you mean? Of course, like I don't think it. And I was like, you right, you right. Like,
Right?
I was just talking to Floyd's stepson yesterday, and he was just like asking me about it. Like, you think they're not gonna give him the max? I was like, I guess I wasn't really. I just figured they wouldn't want to, like you said, they wouldn't want the city to burn. But like,
Right.
you know,
I mean,
they,
I wouldn't see anything
they've
wrong
done
with it
dumber
burning if they don't
things.
give him max.
America's done dumber things. So,
It really
and
has.
I thought the plan from the start was they were going to throw the book at Chauvin and try to get the other three killer cops off. So I thought that was the plan the whole time. But I guess
Wow.
we kind of wait to see. I think they think we're not going to care about the other three cops, so they can silently let them off. But we'll be there every
Every
day.
damn
We'll
day,
be there.
right?
We'll be there every day. We'll be out there at the start of jury duty, jury selection. We're going to be there at opening arguments, closing arguments, throughout. Same thing. So
You know, I was when I went out there to look at things and to kind of wander around and just get a feel for the place, I went to George Floyd Square, and I'm showing them a picture right now of the Power Fist in the center of the intersection, and you know, the sculpture one is amazing, but you know, all these pictures except for the one by Emma earlier, all these are my pictures, and when I walked into that square for the first time, and I'm coming back to us now. When I walked into that square for the first time, there was a feeling in the air. The people walking around. It was right as you know, the trial was about to start, and even without talking to people, just looking at the art, looking at the area, looking at even the greenhouse itself, just everything, there was an emotion in that air that was holy crap. That you could feel it. You could feel that something big had happened here, and that a lot of people were here waiting for justice. Like there's just, I don't know what it is about just walking through that area, but like I just felt like the heaviness of it. And maybe it was because of the artwork I was staring at and the messages it was sending, but you know, because I am an atheist, so it's not like I believe like there was some energy or anything. I'm just saying, like, when I walked through there, like, the feeling was, holy shit, an event here that changed the world happened, and I'm still hoping we get the change we want out of it.
yeah, Floyd Town is amazing. I mean, it is going. It is almost a year of it being a completely like autonomous zone by itself, self-sufficient. It has its own staff that do armed security there. There are several different like the communities like working together. Like there's several different organizations like working together to make sure that there's security. I genu I will say, because my hat's off to them. I didn't think they were going to be able to keep it through a Minnesota winter.
Right?
Because once again, like this winter we had the polar vortex, so it was like -50, -60. Yes, like they were still out there.
It was nuts.
The cops kept rolling by because they were like thought they were just gonna roll in and come in, and people were like, "No, we're still here.
It's like
We're
what we
not.
did at
We're
Occupy.
out
Didn't matter. 20 degrees under, I don't
outside."
care. You ain't
They're
taking this from
outside.
us. You know, one of the other
So,
things that I found cool there, and I'm wondering about your opinion about this, is when I was walking around the square, I ended up talking to multiple people who lived in the area. In fact, I talked to one of the people who lived in the building right behind the restaurant there.
mhm.
And they all were happy. None of them were sitting there like, I can't wait for these people to leave. They were all like, I'm so glad that they still have the space and I don't want the cops to take it. And I've been in other situations where things were, somewhat occupied. Even at Chaz, there were some neighbors who weren't happy. I mean, do you get that same sense there that like the local area is really behind it? Or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like the people because there's the people generally around South, and then there's like the people that that are like around the actual physical space. I think the people that are around the physical space really do support it. Um, the propaganda news stations always try to say real bad things about it, and in the newspapers and stuff. So they try to change people's public opinion because that's the way that they're trying to get it taken down. It's like have the community like hate it enough and try to villainize it. But the thing is, it's really hard to hate people who are like so loving and caring and like giving out free food and doing events where they're doing free poetry slams and concerts and like there's a church there and they still do service every Sunday
Yeah.
outside. Like I mean like
Yeah.
it's very hard to like try to villainize like
Right.
that, you know what I mean?
No one yells at you when you walk out your door. Everyone's like, how's it going? What's up? Let's have some fun. You want to
What can
join
I help
in?
you with? Oh, we're just making this community garden over here so y'all can get some food in the spring. Like, did y'all need anything? Like, yeah, it's
I was talking to another organizer out there, a union organizer. Last week we had him on the show. Kieran, he works, he's president of the CWA, the communications workers. So, like, all the employees of, like, AT&T and places like that are, his people in that union. And he's head of the Minneapolis branch. And one of the things that I brought up to him that I also want to bring up to you just because I think it needs to be said to as many people so it's in your head when these things happen. Because it's surprisingly important to me. Like some people don't get it, but I'm hoping you'll get it. Because I think you will. The artwork in that square is super important. There is some beautiful, meaningful, historic art in that area in George Floyd Square in Floyd Town, and in Chaz. What happened with a lot of the artwork at the end? The city decided to come in and take it all, and set up a little gallery showing, acting like they were cool as hell, and showing off how here's the art of the thing that we let happen. And I mean that's some bullshit. And I'm hoping that you guys are on top of that out there and that you don't let the city get away with that type of shit because a lot of rich white people are going to want to see that art in a nice gallery setting who would have never set foot in the square, right? And I'm hoping you all get a hold of that art and do something yourselves, not them.
yeah. I yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for saying that. I feel like I feel like that is an important
People
thing.
don't think about that, but it's important.
I literally never thought about that at all. So like, um, not that I've been around that many autonomous zones. So yeah, but
Right, right,
being able to like learn from your experience, that because that would be some BS right there.
right,
Um, but that's the American government looting like they always do.
right,
But when the American government loots, they call them museums or something, right?
right, right, right.
Um,
As I always say, cops start riots. It ain't us. Yeah, yeah. I've got there's at least one person in the chat. I think maybe two possibly from Minneapolis chatting with us here. One of my friends who I hung out with while I was out there. I'm wondering if anyone in the chat has any questions for what's going on. Just kind of start posting anything you guys want to talk about. But on the ground there, the sentencing for Chauvin has been pushed back now twice. And I've read all kinds of conspiracy theories about why. One of the more interesting ones to me is it has been stated that any possible jurors or anything to do with the trial for the three other officers might be influenced by his sentencing, and so they're trying to find a way to push his sentencing until after their trial, so him getting max doesn't affect their sentencing. Like that would be the only thing that would make sense from like the city standpoint, right? But other than that, I don't know why they keep pushing his damn sentencing back, and I think it's bullshit. I mean, has anyone out there been talking about it?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I haven't, yeah, I haven't really talked to any of the other like community organizers about it recently, because we've been trying to organize getting Dante Wright's manslaughter charges jacked up to murder charges,
Yep.
murder too. Um, so yeah, so I haven't really got it. From my under, yeah. No, that does sound reasonable. I don't.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they aren't giving good reasons for it, so everyone's just out there theorizing, right? And who knows who's right.
Yeah, I haven't seen as many. So the National Guard are still here, but I haven't. They have less of a presence than they did before the verdict.
Well, I don't
Maybe they're
know.
trying.
You weren't there at the night of the Chauvin sentencing. You weren't in Brooklyn Center at like 11 o'clock when curfew hit. But I want to tell you the thing they did that really blew my mind. They screamed over their megaphone from the other side of the fence in the police station that curfew was at 11, like 5 minutes before 11, and
Oh yeah, they do.
and then
They do that all the time.
and then Peter got on the other one and started talking, and then someone else who I don't know the name of, a woman, took the microphone from Peter and screamed into it, "Curfew might be coming, but we ain't leaving," and started just screaming at the cops and the National Guard and everything else. And the time passed, and they did nothing. They didn't even come to the fences. Like they got like three of them, like kind of toyed with the crowd and walked up close to the fence, then went back to the station right over where they stand on the side of it. And about half an hour passes, and you see them start coming out of the building, and a lot of National Guard came out of that building. Like I'm talking like 100+ people, all with riot shields. And I'm thinking, oh shit. So there's a couple people there on the ground who I know, let's just couch this lightly, don't need to be arrested and have their record checked. So I walk over them real quickly and say, "You see the riot shields?" And they're all like, "Thanks." And they head off down the street like they were never here. And because, I mean, you got to be that guy for people sometimes, right? But
yeah, no. Yeah, we make that. I make that.
Yeah.
Not I, but we make that announcement all the time with things
Yeah.
like that. Like I was making that announcement, like unarrestables should leave, and people who are planning on staying should write the number for our jail support down.
Yep.
That'll bail you out and get you a lawyer. Like, and then we got people with markers to put the. Then they started telling people that like it's a felony if they find them with the number though, because that shows
which is a lie.
Which is just crazy.
Outright lie. So here's what the National Guard did that night, which just blew my mind. It was the first time I've ever seen them get something right. And I'm not giving them any credit for this because I don't know who told them to do this. But we're all there past curfew, loud as hell in a residential area. That thing is blasting music. Everyone's fucking doing the cha-cha. Like they all start dancing, like all in line. Like they get a really big group going. Everything's, I mean, it's an event, right? But we're all still also yelling at the cops and at the National Guard. They all got in their vehicles after walking out with all their riot shields, formed two lines, and left. We're all still there. No one has left the event, and the National Guard just drives away, leaving like two cops. And it was strange because the idea of them leaving completely disempowered the protest. Within 10 minutes of them all leaving, half of the protest had gone home because there was no one to yell at. Yeah. And just watching it, it was the strangest event because I've been at so many of these over the years, and I've never seen in a city where the other side does that. And it was the most disarming thing because half of the protesters just went home like within minutes of them all driving away. It was crazy as hell to watch.
Yeah, and Yeah, and that's the thing is that they just agitate and aggravate people on purpose. And they're like, see, look at these people. They're out here trying to do this. And I was like, you shut the lights out and then threw tear gas at people. Like, because they have like
What
lights
do you
around them.
expect? Oh yeah, those they were so bright.
Yeah, yeah. The first night they shut them off and announced journalists had to leave.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, that's not even legal. Like, what are
Oh.
you talking about?
First Amendment, bitches.
Yeah, it's completely optional. And yeah, sometimes during the Brooklyn Center protests for Dante Wright, um, they were announcing curfew. They're like, "Oh yeah, curfew was an hour ago." They're like, "You don't even have a curfew. Y'all are like breaking curfew." It's like, when did y'all make a curfew? Like,
Right, like it hadn't even
y'all
been
are like,
announced yet when they first started trying to enforce it. And it's also bullshit too.
yeah,
I mean, it's just absolute bullshit.
yeah, it's also bullshit. So
Yeah.
it's
It was good to see
yeah,
when curfew came and all the National Guard were standing there about ready to do something. Your city's people just stood there and said, "Do something," and they left. It was a very weird event because if she hadn't screamed over it, I have no idea what was going to happen. But she just screamed at them on the mic, just "We ain't leaving."
yeah, and and it just shows like they're supposed to be enforcing the law, but like the laws are optional to them, right? So
Right.
so there was a long 2 week period after Dante Wright was lynched in broad daylight by the killer cop Kim Potters, where anywhere from 12 to 1,400 people every night was getting outside of Brooklyn Center, and they would just like be out there and they'd be protesting. And what they would do is they would throw tear gas, they would shoot rubber bullets, they would shoot flashbangs, they were targeting black people. Rubber bullets are supposed to be shot at people's legs. I had national reporters of big news stations asking me how if they're shooting at people's legs, how are their cameras getting shot at?
Yeah.
Like why are their
They're
lenses being
aiming for
broken in their
eyeballs.
camera? Because
They're
they're
aiming for
aiming
eyeballs.
for people. Yeah,
Right.
and we had people who had injuries, like some people had been shot in the chest. Some people had been. I had a friend that got shot right here in the face, and we had several people that had to go to the hospital because they were shot by rubber bullets directly in their face. And
And
so
they
it's
hurt
just
too.
like,
The tear gas does
yeah,
too.
and
All
they
of it
hurt.
hurts.
I remember the night when there was, like you said, this was a residential area, right? There was a mom leaning, a African American woman who was leaning out of her window, begging and pleading with the National Guard to stop throwing tear gas because her kids couldn't breathe in her own house.
That is
And after
American.
that, Brooklyn Center City Council took their cops out, and they said that you can't throw tear gas anymore because the governor's like, I'm still putting the National Guard there, and they still threw tear gas.
Yeah, they really don't care. They just do not care when they're told to stop that. Thanks for the subs there, Budo and Dev and Ruby and everyone else helping out the stream. We're getting a lot of love tonight. People love this one. Yeah, so yeah, that's one of the things I noticed there. I was told a lot of things about how city councils and the local government had told the cops what they can and can't do, and the cops don't seem to care at all what they've been told by city council. Not even slightly. I mean, I'm ACAB, so like I didn't believe they would for a minute, but it's another thing to sit there and watch as a specific group of cops who were told you can't do this thing anymore or else. Just keep doing it because there is no or else. Their union is so strong that ain't nobody doing anything to them.
Exactly, which is why the labor union and labor as a movement needs to denounce the police federation, and we need to get rid of them because they don't need any police federation, and their police union is way stronger than any actual union like.
Yeah.
I wish I was in a union that won 100% of their like grievances that they filed. Like,
Yeah.
how do you even do that? Like,
that's just not how labor normally goes.
that's just
Oh.
no, not at all.
No, and that has been an interesting thing, and we should bring this up for people who haven't thought about it in this way. Here in Boston, that fight was had, and the Boston Union was removed from the federation it was in here. So, you know, a lot of unions in a lot of cities are in federations. So there might even be like, you guys in Minneapolis have a union federation building where there's a lot of unions who come together, including like
Mhm.
Kieran's CWA there, and others I'm sure you know of.
Yep.
Uh, and, and, and
CIO.
and yeah, exactly, and the SEIU and all the others, and that federation gives them even more power because they can come together and work together. Usually, it comes along with some kind of a council of leadership from all of them coming together to decide on major actions. Removing police unions from those federations is a strong move. They should not be allowed in those federations. Their unions are
Yep.
not there for the same reason that everyone else's unions are there for,
Yep.
and that is a fight
Absolutely
to be
agree.
had.
Yep. That's a fight to be had. Also, just abolish the police unions too. Um,
Yeah,
that I think that's the bigger thing, because the thing is they make sure that there's no repercussion to their actions on top of all the messed up laws that have been passed too.
like
Um,
qualified immunity.
qualified immunity, because the thing is like when with something like Floyd, right? You only can have your knee on someone's neck for over 9 minutes when you know that there's no consequences.
Yeah, none.
Like that's the only way something like that can happen.
Nobody fearing for their life is smirking, and he was
Yes,
smirking.
exactly.
So I mean, any argument he had about the crowd was riled up. No, 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 no. There were three other armed officers guarding you, and you were smirking. Fuck you, Chauvin. I hope you die in prison.
Under the prison.
You know, and my thing is I'm actually all for abolishing the current prison system as much as I am for abolishing the current policing system. But there does need to be some punishment for people like him, and currently that's the punishment we have available.
Yep.
I would also, at this point, for people like him, kind of be okay with other stronger punishments, but I don't want to get kicked off of the platforms I put this video out on. So street justice might not be the right move here. At least to vocalize, anyways, in any distinct way. You know, one of the things that I'm used to seeing in cities when they go for this long, when an event is this, I mean, honestly, draining, is the organization starts to falter. The infighting between distinct groups, like we were talking earlier about how there's the motorcycle group, there's the TCC4J group. There are the
Racial
Justice.
Justice Network,
There's 20
CARE
different groups.
Minnesota.
There's Jaylani's whole team. There's all these people, right? And they're all kind of tribal in their groups. And I did see that when I was there for one of the protests. I saw like they kind of all stood together and hung out together. But the thing that I noticed was there were people like you there who I mean, you just seem to be the guy in that town, and I'm not trying to compliment you or anything. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy, but like, you walked between all the groups and like, freaking hugged people, and we're talking like, and it didn't seem to, a year in, most cities I've been in this type of shit, like, I mean, the infighting between these groups is massive. Who's in control of the mic? Who's leading this? Who organized the event? What time it's happening? My group, all that type shit. And I just didn't see that happening. Was I blind to it because I'm not there that often, or are you guys really still that together?
Yeah, no, we're still that together. It's about working together. It's about being on point. It's about having a united front,
It's
and
amazing.
understanding that, like, we're not always going to agree on the same thing or the same tactics, but everyone has their place to do something, right? Um, and so yeah, so like there's also like the anarchists, there's the communists, there's a lot of the movement leadership. It's like we probably shouldn't get the anarchists on something about voting because they're not going to vote and they don't believe in holding office.
Right.
But like if we're doing something else, they're down with us because they're ACAB. So like
Right.
have them come. Like it's just about knowing what people want to do and what they don't want to do, and then like that way people can help and pitch out where they want. And like you said, when we have like 15 to 20 different groups, like there's enough people to go around to make sure that like a protest happens. So
it was really intriguing to me in almost kind of like an academic study way because I've seen just I've seen so many cities in this situation just fall apart in their protesting to the point where 20 people are now showing up because it's the only group left that still feels like this needs to be happening anymore because the infighting, right? And that's just, I'm not even necessarily complaining. I'm more saying, like, on our side, when it comes to activism, people willing to get out in the streets and march, there's usually a lot of emotion. There's a lot of feeling and not a lot of fear of showing it. So that leads to a lot of heated moments. And I kind of was looking at what you guys were doing out there as almost a study, right? Like, you guys are a year into this with really, like you mentioned, even the black blockers and the anarchists and the communists, all the way over to the groups of lawyers who are also just standing right next to you in the streets. Like, when I talk about Jay Lonnie, he's actually a lawyer. Like, this isn't just one of the protesters standing out there. He's really fighting these fights, like, in the courts. And they're all just hanging out together still. And I wasn't used to this far in there being that little fighting going on amongst the groups. It was really cool to see. So I was watching to see how you guys are pulling it off. And for anyone in the audience who's wondering, like, why Donald's on the show, why DJ's here, I took a step back while I was there at the event when I started realizing just how organized they still were, and watched. And for like a 2-hour period, this guy kept getting on the mic, getting everyone back on point, facing a direction, chanting. And there were a couple times where a couple people looked like maybe they were hair heated with each other, and you walked right over and were like, I mean, just on top. It was done in a second. Like, it just, someone opened their mouth and like they didn't get to finish saying what they were saying. And watching that type of stuff, like, without people doing that extra work, these things fall apart. And that's why I reached out to you. I was like, let's go. Like, let's talk a little more. Let's see what else we can get done. Because it was good to see. Cities protest movements really do not survive without people stepping up and doing that little extra work,
Yeah, and I think it's also like an like, you coming in as like an outsider, right? You're like, wow, look at what y'all done in a year. But like, what in reality it is like, Tashir's been out there 10, 15 years, right?
Yeah.
Eric's been out there like, they slowly built together. Like, Tashir, who is the lead organizer for supporting families against police brutality,
Yep.
and seeking justice for her fiance, Justin Tigan, who was killed by the St. Paul police and was thrown in a trash can. Like, she started by herself, and she said that, like, she doesn't want any other justice family to feel the way she felt, like how lonely it was and how, like, there was no community or nothing. So she started building, right? She started collecting families that have been affected by this, right?
Yeah,
And
and
then,
they
like, we
talked.
had a lot of,
They
yeah,
talk at the
yeah,
events too.
yeah, and she's an amazing speaker. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, and the thing is, like, it just like slowly builds, right? So we have the families, and then like we have like TCC for J forming, and then we have Nakima Levy Armstrong, who used to be a law professor for 12 years and walked away from tenure to found Racial Justice Network. And we have Care Minnesota. Like, these people are genuinely friends. Like, they've known each other like anywhere from 8 to 12 years.
Right.
And I mean, and yeah, I get along with a lot of them now. But I've also just been here a year, so like I get to reap the rewards of everything that they've already built, like all this foundation, right?
Yep.
Because definitely what happened to Floyd, um, like the aftermath, the uprising, none of that would have been possible without all of this organizing that's gone on for the last 12 to 15 years,
Right.
right? Because,
Absolutely.
like, when the third did go down, like, that coalition of all the orgs, they did that march, the first march to go to the precinct, right? And they did those ones in the daytime and all that. And so they were able to activate and mobilize people and get them to move. Like, for instance, like, they got that march going, but like, how do you lead a march with like anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 people? You only can do that if you're organized and you're ready to do something like that. And that's what it was. Like, the coalition, like, like they already was like, we've been doing this for 12 years. We have a lot of people, but we know that we need marshals. We know that we're gonna need some bikes. We know that we need sound. Like, and they got all that down.
And
So,
you call the
so
NLG, get the Lawyers Guild out, everyone, yeah.
exactly, the Lawyers Guild, get the Freedom Fund to turn the number on. Like, yeah, people know how to do. We know how to do jail support. Make
Yep.
sure that we pick up people after they get arrested and they get let go. Like, so yeah, so this type of system is something that has been, slowly building over the course of of a decade's worth of work. It's not just the last year. So I think that's
Yeah.
also extremely important to recognize. So
It is, and one of the things that I thought was really cool about you guys' protest was the fact that those people were really involved. They weren't an afterthought. This wasn't a bunch of new kids coming in and saying, we got this. When it came time for people to get on the mic and talk, these families of, George Floyd is not the first, will not be the last, and it has been going on for far too long, especially in Minneapolis. Like, there are a lot of families there with a lot of grievances against the police, and you guys had them come up and take the mic and talk about how this has been going on for so long and what they've been organizing and how you can get involved. And you could see on their faces how happy they were to finally, after a decade, see some actual movement starting to happen. It was good. It was really good to see them included in things. In the chat, there's a couple questions. One is there an active black bloc in Minneapolis? And there is. Active black bloc, the anarchists who wear all black and cover their faces and everything.
Yeah. There's anarchists and a bunch of different sections. Yeah, we I work with them. So yeah.
Yeah. There's a good black bloc group out there, Dev, and there's also a bunch of
and it's diverse too,
Yeah, it's a very diverse group. Depending on what city you're in, the black bloc is always an interesting makeup, but there it was a completely diverse group. There were some Anons in it. I saw some Guy Fawkes masks walking around at some of the events, and that was cool. I talked to a couple of them, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you wanted to make sure we covered? Any events coming up? Anything this week? Anything people should be focused on? Any legislation? Any of the groups that you want them to go check out?
Yeah, so I just want to plug community control of the police, which is going to create which would create a board of elected officials from the community, and they would have the hire and fire power, and also have the ability to charge and convict killer cops.
And that's the CPAG group, right?
CPAC, CPAC. So yeah, CPAC, community control of the police. So it's a type of legislation that the Black Panthers were trying to get passed way back in the 60s and 70s before they were infiltrated and lynched and assassinated. So we TCC for J has picked up that mantle in Minneapolis, and we're trying to get that passed. And also just reminding people, the Black Lives Matter movement is a movement that's focused on getting the liberation of Black liberation, and also the liberation of natives too, who are being equally, if not more, oppressed as we are. But also realizing that it's not a competition and it's about solidarity, right?
Yep.
So it's also about talking about Asian lives and how they've been under attack, and making sure that we're there, and we did an emergency solidarity for when the event had happened, when the person had a bad day, whatever the fuck that means.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's about creating solidarity, right? And so it's about Black lives, about Asian lives, about Native lives. It's about Palestinian lives, right? Which is currently going on, and watching footage that's been breaking my heart for the last 2 weeks on that. So
everyone should be paying attention to Palestine right now and what's going on. The people getting actively removed from their homes and replaced by settlers who are armed and ready to shoot anyone who tries to come back to their home.
And it's just crazy, because I was I just feel it so hard, because like the tactics that they use, that the Israel defense uses is the same tactics that the cops use here. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, they're throwing tear gas, they're shooting rubber bullets. I was watching footage. It felt like I was back at Brooklyn Center getting
Right.
tear gas thrown at me and rubber bullets and
Over
flash
at the third
bombs,
precinct last year.
or over at the third precinct. It's just
It looks the
it it
same.
it, it looks the same, and it's um yeah, it's just so I my heart just like really goes out to them, and it's just and so it's about making sure, and realizing that Floyd is not the first time anything like that has happened. I know some people are like, it's extreme or da da da. It's not the first time that it happened, right? And it's not going to be the last. And so we need to get justice not just for Floyd, but we need to get justice for all stolen lives.
Damn
And so we
straight.
need to go back and we need to reopen all the cases of the police officers before, right? So like Kim Potter, right? She lynched Dante Wright. But
Yep.
the other thing is she helped cover up a murder of Kobe Heisler,
Yeah, this
which
was
was a
not the
young
first time
man.
for her.
This is yeah. So like we need to make sure like and then there was people that closed that case and said that that's fine, that she did that, and that they like recognize what she did is bad. And it's like, why do they still have jobs if you're telling me now that she can't do her job even though she's been on the force for 26 years? So it's about going back. It's about making sure that we look at all the cases, right, and we make sure that we're going to get justice for everyone. And it's just weird because it feels like it's getting like closer and closer, right? Because with Floyd, Floyd fiance Courtney Ross, I worked with her for like 4 to 5 years. Her son is like one of my kids who came to my chess club
Yep.
for 4 years, and I still hang out with him like several times a week. And then Dante Wright goes to the school that I coach at, was in the same graduating classes as Courtney Ross's son. Courtney Ross works with Dante Wright. She knew
Yeah.
him personally. And so it's just like it just keeps happening. And so what I need people to do is I need people to keep caring, right? Because with Floyd, what happened was there's this illusion, right? Every time that they lynch someone, they go, "Oh, well, you shouldn't care. This person wasn't worth caring about. They were a drug dealer. They failed a class one time in 8th grade, like, just making up stuff, right? Or why you shouldn't care that person got killed. But when it happens for 9 minutes, over 9 minutes, not even the racists can justify it, right? Like it's even hard for them to do it. So but the thing is, I need people to care no matter how long, right? I don't care if the person being lynched is 9 minutes, or I don't care if it's a couple of seconds, like it was with Dante Wright. But people still need to care, and people can't keep giving these cops the benefit of the doubt. Oh, well, what happened to Dante Wright's accident? How you have the same accident for 400 years?
Yeah. I mean, that's
How after the Floyd case happened, the verdict happened, we have six African Americans dead nationwide? Is that an accident? No, that's retaliation. And so I
yeah.
need people to keep caring and to keep staying in the streets and to create and keep doing solidarity. And it's not about going to war with the United States, right? So a lot of people are like, da da da. They got they got they got guns, they got tanks, they got drones, they got nukes. All right, I
We're not
hate
gonna
the
win
rules
the
of
win
war,
a ground offensive.
right? So what it's about is creating grassroots organizing, and it's about creating unity and realizing that like we're going to get the liberation of all people, right? With Black and Native people being at the forefront because being oppressed the most.
Yep.
So, but it's the fight for the liberation of everyone. So that's what we need to keep in mind, and we need to make sure that we keep our boots on the ground. So
Absolutely, 100%. I will say this. It's always interesting being. I mean, I brought this up earlier, but it's always interesting being there and being kind of like, honestly, the weirdo in the room, right? In a lot of other instances in America, I'm I'm the norm that they're looking for, right? I'm the middle-aged white male in America, so like I can walk in any room and they don't look at me funny, right? You walk in some rooms and they're like, what is he doing here? And at a protest, at like a Black Lives Matter movement, it's kind of the opposite. I walk around and people first have to figure out whether I'm an ally or not. And you know, the one thing that I really want to kind of say on the back of what you just said about people need to keep going is for all the white people that see stuff like this out there that might have gotten involved over the last couple years, stay involved. It isn't about how comfortable you are. It isn't about how much energy you have. And it's not even about how rough it is for you in the world. You know, you can be as comfortable as you want. I don't care if you're poor like me and not so comfortable or rich as hell. The world is a better place when this is solved for everybody. You will actually see a difference in your own world if everyone who looks like Donald here and everyone who's Native American and Asian and basically all the other, you know, non-whites in America have a better life. We will too. And you need to understand that. And I think internalizing that would help a lot. And getting them to believe that is really hard because so many of them are just so comfortable right now.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is like, I always tell people like this isn't a movement about leaders. This isn't a movement about who's on the mic and who's speaking. This right here is we're trying to build a movement that is community focused, and it's focused on creating a militant community and a community that understands that there needs to be the fight for Black and Native liberation needs to be tied to a good and a well understanding of class, right?
Yeah.
Because without those two things, you will never get class liberation and class equality or Black or Native liberation. We need both of those at the same times. And that's why it's important that, like, you know, everyone is out here doing the work. Because the thing is, it's not about whoever people are calling leaders. Because the thing is, they prove every time that they're going to kill those people.
Yeah.
And so it's not about putting all our hopes and dreams into one or two or three people. It's about making sure that when people get killed and when people get lynched like they did in the 2014 Ferguson uprising, because they're still out here lynching people, that the community still keeps moving, right? And that we still keep getting the message and we still are out there fighting for justice, because that's what this is about.
Damn straight. What do you guys have for us, Chad? Anyone in chat have anything else you want to talk about here? We've passed the hour mark since we went live. And I think we're getting close here. I told DJ we'd go for an hour or so. I think this has been great. Chad is having a good discussion. You know, you mentioned militancy, and I want to make sure that people realize that militancy is actually an important piece of this side of it. Militancy to me is really a big part of the class warfare, the class struggle part of this story. And, you know, it is a necessary part of this side of the story too. So it's just, I'm really glad to see how well organized you all have been out there. And I really hope it sticks. I really hope you guys keep it going the way you have. I'm going to keep watching the omnibus bill that's going through there now in hopes that it actually gets passed before it gets any more watered down. And you've got like 2 or 3 other bills that are trying. You know, I have no expectancy of them actually getting through. But, man, you guys are trying. You're trying hard.
We're trying hard. We're pulling up to the legislators' houses, too. We do that a lot.
Yeah, and, you know, I've said before to anyone out there that might see this, DJ, if you share this around when it goes out tomorrow, if there's any legislator you can't find and you'd like to go to his house, just hit me up. I will tell you where they live. I do not care that this is public. I can get anyone's address. So, yeah. So let's go.
Hey, because we be pulling up to people's houses so much, they move. They legit move.
That is...
In the summertime, when the Attorney General of Hennepin County wouldn't charge Floyd, we were outside his house 24/7 for 3 weeks. He sold his house. We threw him a party, a goodbye party. We were
okay,
outside of
that I love.
Huh?
That I love. You threw him a goodbye party. That's the kind of energy you need. That's another thing we haven't mentioned yet. One thing that I really want to kind of instill in people as well that they need to understand is what DJ just said right there. And that is they threw him a going away party. These types of movements require every now and then, at almost a kind of a normal level, like repeatable humorous moments. If you don't have a little levity, you lose a nice group of the crowd. That levity of we threw him a going away party, I mean that helps. The entertainment value of that will get more people to show up to the next event. And no matter how heavy the subject is, and this is a heavy subject, we're talking systemic racism, we're talking outright murder of people of color and indigenous peoples, and basically everyone who isn't white in this country, on the ground, under people's knees, by gun. So these are all the heaviest of heavy subjects. These are police murdering people. But at the same time, to keep movements like this going, a little levity now and then, a little entertainment now and then, is an absolute wonderful pick-me-up for people. So when you get those moments to do something, like throwing someone a going-away party because you convinced them to move their house, do it. It helps a lot.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, we and then the other person was the president of city council for Minneapolis. We were outside her house so much. She announced she wasn't gonna run for re-election because da 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 da. We was like, you ain't running because you moved your butt to Duluth and sold your house. We know why.
Yeah. You aren't in this district anymore.
She
Nice.
moved 2-3 hours up north. Like, dang.
Well, you guys keep this up, man. Keep it going. I'll actually be out there again in probably, I think, 3 or 4 weeks for another fun time telling someone he has bad ideas, but that seems to be my job. So, yeah, when I get back out there, I'll see you guys in the street. I'll tell you tomorrow when this thing gets posted. Everyone in chat, I will talk to you in a second when we close this down. But everyone else, good night. Say good night to DJ. This was awesome. This was fun. Thanks for coming on. And good night, everyone. Let's get to the ending.